Over-opinionated.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Over-opinionated, your home for the soft-spoken truth. I'm going to focus a little bit on some Virginia politics and a little bit on some national politics today. It's not going to be a very long episode, 30 to 45 minutes. And today our main topics is going to be the Joe Biden Impeachment Inquiry, and we're going to talk about Hunter Biden with Joe Biden's businesses, Hunter Biden on his gun charges, and we're going to talk about a Virginia political sex scandal coming up. Last week, Susanna Gibson was blasted for a sex scandal that was discovered that she used a service where customers can go online and pay to see her online pornographic material. And it came out as a big scandal. She claimed that it was like revenge porn. The Virginia Republicans were abusing the situation. Well, Virginia Republicans aren't abusing the situation. Now, I have seen some posts online that Republican voters have posted that I wish that they wouldn't have. I don't like that they're posting some of the pictures that they are, but let's get everything out of the way. The candidate, Susanna Gibson, knew what she was doing, and when you put something on the internet, it lasts forever. Now, I've posted stuff on the internet that I wish I could go back, and I'm not super proud of. None of it was anything like that. I'm not judging her, not condemning her to the lake of hell, but when you do something like that, most of the time you're not a God-fearing person. So we see a culture that's becoming more acceptant of online platforms. I'm not going to mention them, but a lot of you know who they are, where girls can post, and men, but it's mostly girls that are doing this, can post pornographic material and receive money for it, like a subscription service like Netflix or something like that. And the girls will get money. Now, a lot of girls that are attractive are making pretty good money off of this, off of what is essentially internet prostitution. That's basically what this is. It's legalized internet prostitution. Now, she has the right to do it, and I don't think it's illegal. We should definitely discuss if this should be legal, if constitutionally, if we could ban this. It'd be hard, I'm sure, because pornography is generally protected under free speech for everyone that's 18 and up. Everyone that is 18 and down, it's not considered a free speech issue, but more of a children protection issue. I'm going to read a little bit from the New York Post about the issue. Susanna Gibson blasts opponent for gutter politics after sex video surfaces. Democratic Virginia candidate of House of Delegates Susanna Gibson blasted her opponent for engaging in the worst gutter politics after video surfaced of her and her husband performing sexual acts online for cash. Gibson, a 40-year-old mother of two who is running in a highly contested race to represent the state's District 57, hosted several live webcam shows on the adult streaming website. I'm not saying the name. The Washington Post revealed in a bombshell report on Monday. The nurse practitioner has since railed against her political opponents, accusing them of engaging in dirty politics. She called the controversy an illegal invasion of privacy designed to humiliate me. What a joke. My political opponents and their Republican allies have proven they're willing to commit a sex crime to attack me and my family because there's no limit they won't cross to solicit women when they speak up. Gibson told CNN in a statement on Tuesday. My opponents and his allies now know that the people of the district are on our side on the issue, so they're stopping to the worst gutterball politics. You had it. There's too much at stake in this election, and I'll never stop fighting for our community. Her opponent in the battle for the seat in the House of Delegates, Republican businessman David Owen, said his campaign learned about the videos on Monday like everyone else. I'm sure this is a difficult time for Susan and her family, and I'm remaining focused on my campaign, Owen told the Post in a statement. The videos were posted to a public access archive on the website. And it says the name, I'm not saying it. It's September 2022. After Gibson declared her candidacy, the Washington Post first reported Gibson apparently maintained her profile called, I'm not saying it, after having announced her campaign in July 2022, uploading at least one image of herself on the sex stream site a month later. She earned some 5,770 followers, from whom she repeatedly praised for more tokens in charge of chance acts in the private showing. She told her fans that she was raising money for a good cause. Gibson's attorney, Daniel P. Watkins, said the video are violations of Virginia's revenge porn law, which makes it a crime to mischievously sell or send sexual images of another person with the intent to cause, harass, or intimidate. We are working directly with federal and local law enforcement to hold the wrongdoers accountable and to protect Ms. Gibson's right as the victim of a crime. Walker, the founder of Walker Phillips LLP, told the Post. The Virginia lawyer cited a Virginia appeal court ruling in the 2021 that determined it was illegal for a man to secretly court his girlfriend doing a consensual sexual act, even if the video was never shared with others. Gibson's campaign did not immediately respond to the Post's request to comment. It is not clear if Gibson will remain in the race, although she said the scandal won't silence me. The Democratic Party of Virginia declined to comment on the controversy as it works to regain the majority in the 100-member Virginia House. Democrats control the Senate by only a 4-vote margin, while Republicans by the same margin with four seats currently vacant. The race has attracted significant amounts of spending from both parties, which are waging intense legislative battles as rising Republican star Governor Glenn Youngkin looks to continue with his conservative agenda with full control of the state government. The state Republican Party and House Speaker Todd Gilbert did not immediately respond to the Post's request to comment on Tuesday. The district voted in favor of Youngkin by 51.2% to 48.3% in 2021, but in 2022 congressional midterms, the split in the district was 50% Democrat and 49.1% Republican, writes the Post. That is as close as you can get it. So Youngkin won it by 51.2% to 48.3%. That is extraordinarily razor-thin close in that district. And we lost it, the Republicans lost it in the midterms in 2022 by 49.1% the Republicans had and 50% the Democrats had. That is a separation of 0.8%. A separation of 0.8%. That's incredible. This is an extremely tight district the way it is drawn. It's a toss-up district. Anything goes. This does not look good for her campaign. You can try to spin it. You can say this was revenge porn. But she uploaded the videos. She made the conscious decision to try to raise money, whether that be for her campaign or her personal life, to post sexual acts with her husband on the internet. So she's inviting people to the bedroom with her husband. You might say, well, at least it was with her husband. And that's true. At least it was with her husband. But if you're married, or even if you have a significant other, I'd say wait till you're married. But even if you're not, or if you are, just imagine doing this and posting it online for money, something that's designed to be intimate between two people and bring them closer together. You're going to share with the entire world for $10 a month or whatever. I don't know what she charged. I don't really care. But just imagine that. You're selling your romantic life, your intimate life, the things that you're only supposed to have between you, God, and your wife or your husband. And this lady's a nurse practitioner. I think her husband has a very good paying job too. So, I mean, is this can't just be for money, can it? Or is it part of it for validation? And we're living in a culture that accepts this. So part of it's not. I'm not saying it's not her fault. She made the decision, okay. But we're living in a culture that is starting to promulgate this, promote this, okay. Instead of going to a big pornographical site, we'll go to a subscription-based pornographical site because we'll get paid more money, okay. They're both wrong. And listen, the demand is mostly promulgated by men, some by women, mostly by men. And I think that's wrong too, the look. But it's a little bit different when you're fighting a lustful battle and you have anything at your fingertips and premeditatedly uploading videos of yourself weekly or monthly for money. It's a little bit different, and it makes me sad. This has to help Republicans in that district, and I think it probably will help Republicans statewide. We still have a long term before the election, but and this was a national news headline. I'm sorry I didn't cover extremely quick, but like I said before, we're not going to be your fastest breaking news. Don't follow us just to get your news. Follow me to get my opinions, and follow me to get factual information right, but don't follow me to get your breaking headline. I love you, but you need to diversify your news. I don't get paid for this podcast, hardly any. So I have some Patreon supporters, but it's not like this is a full-time gig. It's not. I do it once a week because I love it and because I love bringing the truth to you. And not just this, but spiritual truth. I love getting into spiritual topics and biblical topics. But I might not be the first to break the news, but hopefully I can give you a clear, level-headed discussion of the news and of Virginia politics and of national politics. But this is not good. It's not good for this Democrat running for the House of Delegates. But instead of looking at it with disgust, and it is disgusting, why don't we look at it as concerning too? That we live in a culture that would allow this, or not even legally would allow it, but would allow it to enter our minds, and it would be promoted. I mean, she's a 40-year-old mom of two, and I'm not bashing her for being older. She's not really that old. And she has a honorable profession outside of pornography, not pornography, but being a nurse is an honorable profession. I think she's a nurse practitioner, but being a nurse is something extraordinarily honorable. I think of Jesus, of healing the sick. Now, I'm not saying nurses are Jesus, but they take care of the weakest among these. And most of us in our adult life has needed the care of the medical professionals, and the nurses are doing most of the work. And the doctor comes in, and he does a lot of good work too, but the nurses do most of all of it, don't they? And if you're alive, you can thank a nurse, because a nurse does a lot when it comes to the birthing process. So, but it's just really sad to see that a man and a wife would do this, sell themselves for internet pornography. And I'm pretty sure she put this into her campaign. She legally can do that, not against the law, but just totally, totally sad and shameful. Staying with Virginia politics, I want to read you another article from the Virginia Mercury. I believe this is a little bit of an opinionated article, but we're going to still read it, by the Virginia Mercury. Youngkin signs Virginia's budget offering tax reductions, major new spending. And this article is from September 14th. Governor Glenn Youngkin signed a long-delayed amendment to Virginia's two-year budget on the steps of the Capitol Thursday, including a 6-month process that has left many local and state agencies in limbo. Quote, "You waited a long time for this day, too long," candidly said Youngkin, unquote, "but we came together and got it done." Thanks to the billions in surplus funds, the budget amendment negotiated by the Republican-controlled House and Democratic-controlled Senate offered both parties wins. Almost $1 billion in tax reductions for Republicans, largely produced by a one-time tax rebate, and major new investments in state programs for Democrats, with a reluctance on one-time spending. When we put politics down and pick common sense up, look at what we can accomplish together, said Youngkin Thursday in a speech that both disavowed politics and pointed criticized Democratic policies and prior administrations, a combination that has become the governor's signature. Quote, "Right now we're in the middle of a changing the way Virginia operates, changing to a culture of winning, and change to governing in a way that reflects real results. The representatives and the reawakening of the spirit of Virginia," unquote, Youngkin said, using a phrase that has adopted for the Spirit of Virginia Pact. While Youngkin desires to include long-term tax cuts, has mostly been stomped by Democrats during his first 20 months in office, the governor on Thursday touted the state's historic $5 billion in tax reductions over the past two budgets, an amendment he said has produced $2,200 in tax relief to a typical Virginia family. Much of that has or will come in the form of tax rebates, but the past two spending plans have also included major short change to the standard deductions, which has nearly doubled from $4,500 to $8,500 for individuals and $9,000 to $17,000 for joint filers. The increases are scheduled to end in 2026. Other investment highlights by the governor Thursday included $200 million to help prepare sites for large economical development, $653 million in new education spending, $170 million in behavioral health investments to further Youngkin's help right now policy, and $671 million in natural resource spending. Senator George Burker, Democrat of Fairfax, one of the Democrats' chief budget negotiators, said after this signing that many of the new investments were proposals from Senate Democrats, with some of like the extra 2% salary bump for teachers, supporting both parties in the legislatures. Youngkin was particularly supportive of mental health spending, and Burker, he recounted an episode where senator negotiations told the governor they intended to push for major investments in the area. Youngkin last December has announced his own plan for $230 million to overhaul Virginia's struggling behavioral health system. He said to his credit, "I'm going to object to anything you put on mental health," Barker said. Despite both Democrats and Republicans backing major behavioral health spending, the budget signed Thursday includes $18 million for pay raises for staff at community service boards, the local agenda that provides community service, behavior, health, and development. Disability services, either proposed by the House and Senate, would have put $37 million or $50 million representatively to the CSB staff raises. Quote, "We did what we could," unquote, Barker said. We had to be able to fund a lot of different things. A December 2021 report by Virginia's legislative watchdog agency funded uncompetitive salaries were a key factor of high turnover and staffing problems at the CSB. More than 80% of the CSB executive directors reported that compensation was one of the top 3 factors that made it difficult for their CSB services to hire qualified staff for behavioral issues. The report noticed before recommending that the General Assembly provided regular salary increases for the CSB staff who provided direct care to residents. So that's a good win for Youngkin. Will that help him win in the midterms? I mean, will that help him win this election? I don't know. The Virginia midterms, I don't know. But I think this election is going to be a good reflection of another Trump versus Biden shutdown. You're going to have that in there too, because everyone thinks the presidential nomination will be Trump and Biden again. And I do too, at this point. You know, I support Ron DeSantis at the moment, but I don't see anybody stopping Donald Trump. I just don't. Unless something big happens, he steps out of the race, or God forbid, he passes away, and I don't want that to happen. But I don't see that happening. So I think that could be a big reflection. And remember, in your part of Virginia, Donald Trump might be loved. In my part of Virginia, Donald Trump is loved here. Okay, Southwest Virginia loves Donald Trump. But the majority of Virginia doesn't. And when you live in a place like Southwest Virginia or Southside Virginia or these conservative bubbles in Virginia, you forget to go to the suburbs like Blacksburg. I mean, I know Blacksburg's part of Southwest Virginia, but a lot of people think, well, look, that's a little small blue dot, and look at the rest of the South. Blacksburg's a bellwether, really. Not Blacksburg itself, but Montgomery County in Virginia is a bellwether because you have liberal Blacksburg, and then you have the rest, a red rural county, and you see who's going to get the turnout. So it's a kind of a bellwether. Places like Rafford, a bellwether, okay? Places like Roanoke, not much of a bellwether anymore, but places like Roanoke don't like Donald Trump. Places like Fairfax hate Donald Trump. Places like Richmond hate Donald Trump. Places like Newport News don't like Donald Trump. Places like Virginia Beach don't like Donald Trump. So how's that going to look at the Virginia 2023 state elections where every House of Delegate member is up, and now we're on the term where the Senate is up. The Senate is up every 4 years. They serve a 4-year term, and every single one is up during the Virginia midterms. This is the Virginia midterms where 2 years ago we had the governor's election, and now we're having the legislative election. So Governor Youngkin is safe. But can we get more good conservative leadership passed by Governor Youngkin when we have people like Louise Lucas and other prominent Democrats that are stopping it in the Senate? Can we get more things? We've done some great things. We have. Okay, we've done some great things so far by executive order, and we've made compromises and got some bills passed. And we have stopped madness, okay? Now, elections aren't always about passing good legislations. Sometimes it's about stopping bad ones. And if we had this government in place when the craziness of 2020 was happening, and in 2019, we wouldn't have abortion up to the moment of birth like we do in Virginia. We do now. We can't get that passed until we get a better legislature, which is heartbreaking. But if we had at least one, either the governor's mansion, the House of Delegates, or the state senate, we could have stopped stuff like abortion on demand. We could have stopped stuff like forcing public schools to have to cater to transgenders. Now, I believe we should love transgender students, but I have sisters that are in public schools. I don't want them to have to go to a locker room or a bathroom where a biological man can go in that bathroom by claiming, or a biological male child by claiming that they are the opposite sex. And we had the case in Loudoun County where an individual was raped because a biological male claimed to be a female, went into the restroom, raped a little girl in high school, and basically got a slap on the wrist for it, got expelled, I'm sure, but my goodness. And then the Loudoun County School Board tried to cover it up. And then the DOJ with Merrick Garland really came down on parents protesting that kind of stuff, which is absurd. Imagine you send your little daughter to school and something awful like that happens to her, and then the federal government comes around putting a bounty on you. Not an actual bounty, but a political bounty. My goodness, why do we think that people want to put their kids in private schools now? Because the public school system is corrupt. Now, there are good public school teachers that love education, love to help kids, okay? But it is run top down by liberal teachers associations that hurts children, that tries to indoctrinate them. My high school history teacher, I liked him as a person. I don't think he had an evil agenda, but I think he was so influenced by the Teachers Association and he was so left-wing, he could not keep his politics out of his history lessons. Okay? Now, some people say, you couldn't do that, Josh. I think I could do it a lot better than him, because I can look at both sides of things. Even if I totally disagree and totally hate the other side, I can give you their argument. A lot of people can't do that. They just can give you the argument they have. So our education system is broken. I want a neutral playing field, if that exists. And if that doesn't exist, then we're going to have to raise up good conservative Christian schools outside the public sector and send our kids there. And hopefully, this is why Democrats hate school choice. They hate school choice because they aren't allowed to get their hands on the children. Now, there are some Republicans that hate school choice, but if you're a Republican that hates school choice, I think you're a pretty bad Republican because you might say, well, it's taking money away from public schools and funding. No, what it's doing is it's giving the parents the money to put their kids in where they want to go. Yes, that's going to mean less money for the public schools because the public schools aren't doing that great of a job. So all you're doing is you're helping the individuals and you're helping the working class put their students through better education. Now, all these people that are so against school choice and they're rich, living off the high hog, they don't need the money. They have the money and they send their kids to the good schools. So it screws us. It screws the blue collar people. So you're just hurting the blue collar people. That's all you're doing. And how can you be a Republican and believe in a free market and say I don't like school choice because it's going to hurt public schools? All you're doing is you're opening it up to the free market. Okay, if the public school is good, parents are going to send their kids there because they have a lot more opportunities in sports and other school activities, and everybody basically wants their kid to be able to go to the same school that they did. Now I moved away, so that's a little bit different. I didn't go to the same school as my mom or my dad. I went to Giles High School. Dad went to Fort Chiswell, and Mom went to Bland. And if I have a son and he wants to play football or basketball or baseball, I want him to be able to have the opportunity to play if I homeschool him or if I send him to a private school. Some private schools do have those opportunities. Some of them do not. I think it's wrong that I spend my tax dollars and if I homeschool my kids, my same tax dollars goes to the same public schools that yours does. But if my son wants to play football, baseball, or basketball, they don't get to use my tax dollars to do it, do they? Or if I have a daughter that would like to cheerlead, play volleyball, or softball, same concept. She should be able to have the opportunity. When Delegate Marie March, she'll soon be leaving office, but and I'm not saying I'm a Marie March fan, but I did like that she did this. That she introduced the Tim Tebow bill in the state of Florida. You can be a homeschooler or a private schooler and play public ball like Tim Tebow did, who became the best, in my opinion, the best college football quarterback of all time, or one of the best college football quarterbacks of all time. He wasn't as good in the NFL. I still thought he was okay, but I think that a lot of them didn't want to accept him because of how loud his faith was. But I still thought he was an okay quarterback. He beat my Pittsburgh Steelers in a sudden death overtime playoff game. And he had a winning season the only year he started maybe half a year before the Broncos went on to sign Tim Tebow and win the Super Bowl went on to sign Peyton Manning and won the Super Bowl. And Tim Tebow is now he's always been a man of God, but now he goes around the world preaching the gospel and fighting abortion and saving babies. And he once made the quote, "I'd much rather be known for saving babies than winning Super Bowls." And this is a good college football player, a great athlete, and a great man. So now you don't have to have all the religious components, but how is he supposed to go be a part of the University of Florida, be part of the dynasty that was the Florida Gators in the mid to late 2000s that had one of the best college football programs of all time, had some of the best college football players of all time, people like Tim Tebow, Marquise Pouncey. You had Gonzalez, who I know ended awful his personal life, but he was a great ball player. Had great ball players on the defensive side of the ball too. I mean, that team was stacked. You didn't know it until they all went to the NFL and all kicked some butt in the NFL just about. That was a good football team. I got to watch it when I was little, when I was in middle school, and I really enjoyed it. I became a bandwagon Florida Gator. I had some Florida stuff, but it was more, I like Tim Tebow. He's a good man. And I don't even know if I was fully, I don't think I was saved, okay? I know I wasn't, but maybe I was in that gap period where the age of accountability is a gray zone. But anyway, I like Tim Tebow. I still love Tim Tebow. But how do you get a Tim Tebow in Virginia that goes to a private school or that doesn't play football, doesn't play sports, or you go to a homeschool? Now the objections is, well, see, that's not fair because they don't have the same testing standards. A lot of times that's not true. A lot of these places, you go take a test somewhere else, okay? And I support doing that. You shouldn't just give them an A. And then they'll say, well, it's not fair because you don't go to the same school as all these kids. You're not going to have the same you're not going to have the same friendships there. You'll make the friendships. And then you'll say, well, what if your son was a starter? He was the starting quarterback, and someone came out from homeschool and beat him for the starting position. I think, as a parent, that would be a great learning opportunity. Okay, son, the real world's hard. It sucks. You have to work hard. And listen, I was never a starter, but I worked my butt off and I made my team better, and everyone on that team would tell you that. But anyway, I think it's a good thing because in the working world, any day they can hire an outside hire that replaces you. They can. It could suck. It could be immoral, but they could do it. So I think it'd be a good learning opportunity. Son, this is just how the world works. It's dog eat dog. I'm not saying you do anything immoral, but you go out there and you win. But a lot of Republicans in Virginia don't like that, as well as Democrats. But even if you don't like the Tim Tebow bill and stuff like that, please, please, please support school choice. And you might say that hurt our local school. Well, then your local school better stop sucking, okay? Now a lot of them will say, well, we gotta fund it more, okay? But let me present to you this: when the 2020 BLM riots was happening, and we were doing a lot of internal things when it comes to police officers, reflections. I'm not saying we shouldn't have done that. I do think there's some corruption in some police, in the police world, but I don't think that they're all bad. I think the vast majority of them are good. I think they're heroes that do their job, okay? But should we do some internal investigations to see how we can improve relations between any community, any minority community, any community ever, and those officers? Absolutely. Absolutely. But when all this was going on, a lot of Democrats started crying, defund the police, they suck. Well, if you defund them, how can they do their job and the criminals are going to take over? But when it comes to public schools, they'll say, well, our public schools could be so much better. They're not doing great right now because we're not giving them enough money. Why don't you make the same argument for the police? Why don't you say they need more money to do a better job? The same way you're saying that about the education system. The education system is broken. It's becoming a left-wing indoctrination system, partially because conservatives don't want to be teachers. They don't want to be a part of that. They don't want to have to go through the teachers' unions. And teachers' unions are not the same as a workers' union in the automotive field. Okay? They are ideologically driven to turn students into Democrats. Now you might say that's not true, but it is. Everybody knows it's true. So a lot of conservative people, they either become private school teachers, or a lot of them don't become teachers because of that, and because And listen, I don't think it pays that great. A lot of them say, I'll go to a business field. More Republicans go into business than Democrats. Okay, I think a lot of that is you're going to say, no, Josh, that's mean. I think a lot of that's because they're more realistic when it comes to business. A lot of liberals are more utopian. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. Okay, especially the Marxists. The Marxists believe in this fantasy utopia world that just doesn't exist. When I do pro-life work, when I advocate for the unborn, or when I see things online, their arguments will always be, um, you know, you care so much about those who haven't been born yet. What do you do for those who have been born? That by itself can be a fair question. And I say, well, I try to help them in other ways by giving to my church, which gives to the poor, by doing this, this, and this. It's never enough. Unless you're a total Marxist, you can't be for not killing babies. Unless you believe that the government should give you a house, give you a car, give you a cell phone, give you direct TV, sign you up for Netflix, go and wash your hair in the morning and wash your back in the shower, unless the government literally puts the the food in your mouth, not metaphorically, unless the government literally puts a spoonful of beans in your mouth, then you can't be for not killing babies. That's how ideologically driven and utopian how mindset they are in a utopia that cannot and will not exist. Remember, Christ said, the poor will always be with you. These guys don't, most of them, they don't believe in Christ. They don't believe in common sense. They know that they want to kill babies, they want to have sex without consequence, which doesn't exist and will never exist. They want to have sex without consequence. They want the government to do everything for them. And they want to be able to kill their babies on demand whenever they want, however they want. Okay? That's what they want. And they don't want you to be able to think for yourself. They want you to think what they think. And once you think for yourself, you are the enemy. If you have the ability to think for yourself, you're the enemy. There is nothing more dangerous than groupthink. Meaning, if you disagree with my group, you're a bad person. You're the enemy. You are not one of us. But listen, I have a mind of my own. I encourage everyone to think for themselves. I want you to pick either an organization you're affiliated with, a church you go to, a party you're a part of. And if you cannot pick one single point which you disagree with them, then you might be ideologically driven and part of their groupthink. You have to think for yourself. You have to know the arguments. You have to know what the other side believes. And you have to be brave enough to go against your group from time to time. I'm a Republican. I agree with 80 to 95% of the Republican Party's platform. But there are some instances where I have to go against the grain and I say, yeah, this don't check out for me. I don't think that's right. I do think workers get took advantage of. I do think companies take advantage of workers. You know why? Because I've seen it. I've seen them rake in tons of cash. And I've seen them have their private yachts. Why, they don't care when their employees are struggling. Now you might say, now you're being the Marxist. No, I'm not. I'm being the pragmatist, okay? When you make all your money off the working class and you don't return it back to them in any degree, then that causes people to become Marxist. I'm a capitalist. I believe in the free exchange of goods. With that being said, I also believe that workers should have rights. I think they should have a right to a fair wage. Now, what is the fair wage? That should be negotiated. Okay? But a lot of these companies could do a lot more for their workers. And a lot of Republicans would hate that I say that. Now, that doesn't mean they get everything in the kitchen sink. That doesn't mean they get to work 30 days a week and get paid 40. That's a new thing that's coming trend. I don't like that. If you're going to get paid 40, you should work 40. Um, Now, vacation time, different, okay? Um, but when it comes to things like, my friend Daryl Hampton, he always says, you might put BLM on your corporation, but what are you doing to make the workforce better place for black employees and just all employees? But a lot of these organizations, they're hypocrites. They will put on the face, they will smile, they'll put the left wing slogans on the door, and behind closed bars, capitalism always wins, baby. And sometimes that can be negative. Not always. Most of the time, capitalism works out to be pretty good. But unless there's a moral compass to guide us, any system breaks down. So, and that's why I'm a capitalist, because in socialism and communism, and true socialism and true communism, you give all the power to the government. You're not defeating evil corporations, you're making a monster into a huge corporation called the government. You're trusting the government to do these things, and you're saying that the government will operate faithfully. Why? Because we elect them until we don't, right? And that's not an election 2020 conspiracy. I'm saying a lot of these governments started out to be more democratic a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of them had the promise of a democracy, but a false promise. like, did you know that in North Korea that they have an election and everyone votes? Well, how did they get 100% turnout for a vote? They kill you if you don't vote, or they send you to a concentration camp. And there's only one person or one candidate you can vote for. That's not an election. That's not a choice. That's slavery. But that's socialism. No, but so that's what I'm saying. I'd much rather deal with 50 evil, corrupt corporations and huge businesses than one humongous, huge, corrupt government. That doesn't mean that you get rid of all corporations or the government, okay? We need good regulation, not crushing regulation, but good regulation that protects workers, and gives them a right to go to the negotiating table. So that is my end of the rant there, and we're going to go to the big dogs. We're going to go to federal politics. I'm going to read you an opinion article from Fox News by Greg Jarrett. Impeachment Inquiry. Can Democrats clear Joe Biden's name? If Democrats truly believe in Joe Biden's innocence, they should welcome a formal inquiry. But they don't believe it, so they've embraced an Ferlandix strategy to impose the investigation with order of a guilty man who's been caught with his hand in the till. So they'll claim, don't believe your lying eyes. In announcing the inquiry, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said there are credible allegations of abuse of power, of obstruction, and corruption. Within minutes, the Biden White House flatly claimed there is no evidence of wrongdoing. So why not prove it? Remove all doubt by presenting the evidence of innocence. And there is the rub. For several months, House committees have accomplished incriminating facts, implementing Joe Biden as accomplice in his son's influence peddling schemes with foreign adversaries. The elder Biden met personally with Hunter Biden's overseas clients, had dinner with them, spoke by telephone with them on roughly 20 occasions, and in coordinates with his son's partners in covering it all up, all while the president lied by insisting that he knew nothing about it, all the nefarious deals and never played a role. That face was destroyed by Hunter's partner, Devon Archer. Bank records show that some $20 million were funneled into a complex web of shell companies that appear to have none other purpose than to conceal the source of the cash that was then distributed to Biden family members in what smacks of corporation money laundering operation. Banks flagged more than 150 suspicious activities, including the Bidens as riches poured in from China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Romania, and other countries, which then Vice President Joe Biden, under influence the Obama administration. In the face of the mounting evidence of illegality, Democrats have simply issued rote denials of wrongdoing without offering any countervailance. Now is their chance to do so during the impeachment inquiry that will surely involve public hearings. It is also an opportunity for President Biden, instead of stonewalling efforts to gain access to his banking records and his 5,400 emails, he can voluntarily to turn them over. If he has nothing to hide, why hide? At the same time, media apologists can take a few moments to actually read up on the law instead of misrepresenting it to their viewers and readers. One of their favorite refrains is that influence peddling may be sleazy and corrupt, but it is not a crime. That is not remotely true. The selling of influence is defined as bribery under 18 U.S.C. 201. Similar language can be found in the Foreign Corruption Acts. They make it a felony for public office holders to promise a benefit in exchange for money. Filing the benefit is not essential. The promise alone is criminal. Another common canard recited by the media is that Joe Biden commits no crimes unless it is shown that he personally received money. Again, this is incorrect. The same bribery statute noted above states that a felony has occurred if the money goes to any other person or any entity other than the office holder. So if Hunter Biden and the Biden family were enriched by values of Joe Biden's promise to exclude information as vice president, then crimes will continue. Did Joe Biden sell out his country for profit? Did his family get rich or betray the family trust? America deserves an answer, especially as Biden runs for re-election to a second term. The House Oversight Committee has already uncovered compelling evidence that Biden issued his influence to benefit the Ukraine gas giant Burisma, which was paying his son $1 million per year. At the time, the company was under investigation for corruption by country's chief prosecutor. I can't pretend to say his name. You have to read the article. In a November 2015 email, Burisma urged that Hunter used his leverage to kill the probe. Thereafter, he met personally with its CEO, again I cannot pronounce the name, who ordered Hunter to get his dad on the phone, which he did. Davis later, Joe Biden flew to Kyiv to demand Seoul's firing, or the U.S. would withhold $1 billion in American taxpayer aid, even though the Obama administration already approved the financial package. In a recent Fox News investigation, Schultz accused Joe Biden of incurring his firing to squash the investigation and stated that briberies was the likely motivation. It is consistent with the FBI documents revealing that a trust information colluded to the bureau that Zelensky provided both Joe and Hunter Biden to make the Burisma scandal vanish. These disturbing allegations merit explanations through a House impeachment inquiry. Did Joe Biden sell out his country for profit? Did his family get rich or betray America's trust? This is exactly what our founding fathers feared the most, an unscrupulous and greedy president who might jeopardize our nation's social integrity for personal enrichment. This is why they crafted a constitutional provision specifically identifying treason and bribery as an impeachable offense. But don't expect Democrats to welcome the opportunity to clear Joe Biden's name as they should. It's an impossible task. They'll resort to testing, objecting, and denying everything. Their handmaids and their purses will continue to deceive you about the law. And Joe Biden, he'll invoke his infamous scheme exhibited to that he knows nothing. Then he diminishes mentally. Actually, that may turn out to be his only defense. Okay, so please go read that opinion article by Fox News and wrote by Greg Jarrett by Fox News. It is opinionated. It's obviously more conservative, but yeah, I think this does deserve an impeachment inquiry. Why is Hunter Biden on the board of Burisma, raking in over $1 million a year, around $1 million a year? What qualified him for that position? Was it his last name? Was it his daddy, the vice president's last name, Biden? Looks like it. Why is it that Donald Trump gets impeached by the House for a Ukrainian phone call, not even nearly as bad as what Joe Biden did? Okay, why is it that it wasn't the perfect phone call. I was just talking to Vladimir Luzinski, and I was like, hey, Vlad, wouldn't it be great if you dug up some dirt on the Bidens I'm running against him? Very nasty, very bad people, Vlad. It was a perfect phone call. Congrats on winning your election, Vlad. As I do a bad Trump impersonation. That was not a perfect phone call. I would not have voted to impeach him, but I would have voted to censor him, which is a saying that you condemn what the president did. It was bad, but did it go to the level of impeachment? I don't know. I don't think so. But if that does, this does, okay? Biden did something worse. He said, if you don't take this guy off the board, we're not going to give you $1 billion from the United States. He has said that publicly. I've heard him on videos say that. And remember, the Democrats impeached Trump off the phone call from Ukraine. So under the same standards, you have to impeach Joe Biden. I think the impeachment of a president is an awful event and should very, very rarely happen unless it's, treason, bribery, felony, or a misdemeanor. So, would I vote for Joe Biden to be impeached? I would have to sit in those inquiries and ponder that and pray about that, because that is a rough thing for the country. The Democrats didn't think about it being a rough thing for the country because all they were caring about is winning an election. I hope the Republicans don't do that. But it doesn't deserve a case. It does deserve that. And especially looking at Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's business dealings. I don't buy the logic that he was just calling to talk about the weather. He's very obviously flaunting that he was the vice president. So, I don't like impeaching a president because I think it goes in the face of America saying you picked the wrong guy. And that did happen a lot with Trump. I don't think Trump lost because he was impeached twice. I think he lost because of the words he says and his attitude. But listen, Joe Biden's not liked either. Joe Biden is almost as hated as bad as Donald Trump. So if this election comes down to who's hated more, I feel like Biden has a little bit of an edge. But right now, Trump is winning in a lot of the polls, and that's why it's hurting a lot of other Republicans. If Trump can say, "Listen, you can have me and the victory," that's I think we could have someone else and have a big victory. I think Ron DeSantis runs the floor with him and beats him in a landslide. I think if Trump is our nominee, it's going to be a dogfight. And a dogfight we still have a chance to win. Trump wins the nomination, I will be volunteering for him because Joe Biden is awful. He is worse than anything President Trump can ever hurt my feelings with. It hurts my feelings a lot more when I'm paying $3.50 for gasoline and I'm struggling to buy groceries. That hurts my feelings a lot more than Donald Trump calling Chris Christie fat. And I don't like Donald Trump being mean to people. It bothers me as a Christian. I'm not saying I've never said anything mean, but a lot of Christians that idolize Donald Trump, I'm really worried. I'm not saying Trump's going to hell, but he should not be your moral compass. You should read the words. Read those red words in the Bible, and you should go with the red words of the Bible before you go with your politician. And that goes for anybody, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, or people who don't vote and don't care. Read the Bible. Not just the red words, the black and white ones are important too. Just making an analogy, okay? But it's scary. Hunter Biden's getting indicted for a gun charge. And listen, one day, one episode, I'm going to just dedicate that to the Biden family and the Biden crimes and alleged crimes. Okay? And going over everything. But the Democrats cannot say that this is a witch hunt when they gave us 2 witch hunts with Donald Trump because they hated him so much. Okay? And Trump was not a perfect president or a perfect man, I get it. But their self-righteousness is going to look pretty lame to Americans. And this could be the first election in American history where 2 presidents who have been impeached run against each other. And America holds their nose because they don't like their candidate that they're voting for, but they like him more than the other guy. But that could very well happen. It's going to come down to who is hated more. It's not going to come down to who we love more. It's going to be a very ugly election. You're not going to see a ton. Number one, hardly anybody loves Joe Biden. There are some people that love Joe Biden. A lot of Democrats don't love Joe Biden. A lot of Democrats think he's too old, too incompetent, but they hate Donald Trump. They hate Donald Trump with the passion of 1,000 suns. Okay, it's weird. I live in Southwest Virginia, but I worked in Blacksburg, which, yes, it is a part of Southwest Virginia. But I worked in Blacksburg, lived in Giles County. So I got to see the polar opposites. I got to see the absolute hatred of Donald Trump spilling out of their mouths. I remember going to work the day Trump won, and it was like the worst thing in the world happened. I understand it sucks to lose an election. And listen, I'm political more than most people. So yeah, I've got beat in elections before. The people I was supporting got beat. And that's broke my heart. But it wasn't, oh no, the world is ending. I had a guy tell me that Mike Pence wanted to put all gay people in concentration camps. That Mike Pence. So there's conspiracy theorists on the left and the right, and they don't make sense of themselves. They don't read from the left, and they don't read from the left and the right news sources. They don't try to get super involved in politics. They just make posts on the internet, and they vote, and they cry when their side loses because it's Armageddon. And if Jesus doesn't come back soon, we're all going to hell. You know, when Donald Trump lost the election, and I used the word lost because he lost. And I can do something, and I do think there was corruption in the election. Don't get me wrong, there was, and I hated it. But he lost. He took that big fat L, and you gotta accept that. You gotta move on. You can't focus on it your entire life. But that doesn't mean Donald Trump was a bad president, because actually his policies were pretty good. But what bothers me more than anything is the evangelical community, which I am an evangelical, I'm a Bible-believing Christian, I'm conservative. They acted like it was the end of the world. I mean, Jesus is coming back tomorrow because the evil, awful Joe Biden is oppressing us so much. And Biden sucks. I can't stand him being my president. But that's how ignorant you have to be. You have to forget all of church history, all of human history, and you have to be so narrow-minded that you're so afraid of this 80-year-old man who can't tell if he's eating pudding or rice because he is so messed up in the head that he needs to go home and sit in a rocking chair. And I'm not saying that to be mean. If I'm ever that old and my brain's ever like that, I've told my wife, don't let me run for president. Don't let me be president. Let me enjoy my grandkids. Read my Bible. Because Joe Biden's not stupid all the time. I think he has senior moments where it comes and goes, okay? But that's not somebody you want in the White House, is it? It's not someone I want in the White House. But, okay, when I think of Caesar, when I think of the Roman Caesar Nero, okay? The Roman dictator Nero. And forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his title. When I think of Nero, and when I think of the awful things he did to the Christians, feeding them to lions, putting them on poles and lighting them on fire, and then the Christians go out and sing God's praise. They win the world to Christ. They win Rome to Christ, a pagan nation that became Christian. Who would have ever thought in 70 AD that this empire, that this one of the greatest empires in the world that everyone talks about even to this day, that are tons of our systems are built off to this day, that this pagan empire full of death, full of the gladiator games, would become a Christian country. Who would have thought that? My God did it. My God did it. And a lot of people will say in the world, man, this world is so lost. It's so awful. Look at all the abortions. Look at all the homosexuality. Look at all of this. Look at all that. Oh no, Donald Trump isn't president. Jesus coming back because it's so hard. Quit being a crybaby. Are you being fed to a lion? Are you being lit on fire for your faith? You are such a crybaby. You're so weak. I'm tired of it. Grow up. Read your Bible. Read your history. My God conquered Rome. And you're afraid that God can't get rid of Joe Biden as president? You're afraid that God is so weak, so fragile, that we can't survive 4 to 8 years of Joe, am I eating pudding or rice? Biden? Grow up. Grow up. You are so privileged. I'm privileged in a lot of ways. You are too. Americans are privileged. White, black, green, or yellow compared to the world. And I'm not talking about these stupid oppression Olympics. I hate that crap too. But these Christians didn't have the Bible that we have. They had, don't get me wrong, the Holy Bible was preserved by God. The text was preserved by God. But if you're a Bible-believing Christian, You probably don't have all the Bible in your hands. You don't have this 66 books. Okay, if you have the Bible, you have a Christian library. It's not one book, it's 66 of them. How many people have died to get just one scripture? And you're complaining while drinking a margarita and posting about how evil Biden is on Instagram, and how, hey, you don't think we can make it? Oh Lordy, the government's gonna shut down for 2 months, and we're not gonna make it. We better stock up on the canned goods, 'cause evil Joe Biden. Grow up! Oh my gosh. You need to slap yourself to wake up. You're stupid. Well, you yourself might not be stupid, but you believe something which is very, very stupid and very, very narrow-minded. Wake up. Oh, Jesus is going to come back, but it's not because Joe Biden is a bad president. And guess what? He knew it was going to happen. It's not like God woke up after the election and went, oh my gosh, what did we do? We forgot. It was November 2020. Oh man. Oh, Gabriel, look what I did. I forgot. That's not God. That's not God. And if that's your God, that's a small God. Serve Jesus. Serve your King. Jesus is King right now. He's King of all the earth, not later. Now. Okay? And the more I read Revelation, the more it comes clear to me that Jesus is King right now. It doesn't mean bad things don't happen. They still do. But He's King now. I'm going to read you the verse of the day, and we're going to head out of here. Okay, everyone, I think this verse sums up our podcast well. I'm going to be reading out of the New Living Translation. One day I'm going to do a podcast about Bible translations, because it's very interesting about how they word their words and what manuscripts they pull from. But, good rule of thumb is the NIV, the New King James, the King James. They're good versions to have and study. But the New Living Translation, it wouldn't be my everyday study Bible. But it puts it very plainly, very calmly. It's not a paraphrase. There are some Bibles that are paraphrases that are not scriptural. We'll talk about Bible translations one day. But I'm going to read from the New Living Translation, Luke chapter 8, verse 17. I think it goes with what we talked about today. For all that is secret will eventually be brought into the open, and everything that is concealed will be brought to light and made known to all. So, every politician, every person, every bad deal, every evil will be brought to light and will be known. That's something that should scare everyone. It scares me, and I don't do dirty stuff. That makes me say I need to get right with God every day. It's a humbling, true verse. Everything in darkness will be brought to light. If not in this world, then the next. So, my goodness, let us act like we are sinners in the hands of an angry God, because without Christ, we truly are. Thank you all for listening to Over-opinionated. I love you guys. Love my audience. If you have a question, DM me on Facebook, on Twitter, now known as X, but that's stupid, so we call it Twitter still. And if you want to give, you can go to Patreon in the link description below. And all that does is help me with this show. I don't make money from it, really. I work a 9 to 5 every day, okay? Actually, I work a midnight job. but I work a blue collar job. And but if you want to help out, that help out. Pray for the podcast. Pray for me, because I really want to spread God's word. The majority of my hope in this podcast isn't politics. It's really explaining biblical characters and chapters and topics. But I can't abandon politics because it's so important. And Christians shouldn't abandon politics. God bless you. Please serve the King, Jesus. Because Jesus is King right now. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.